Welcome back to Knives here on Chef's Corner. I'm Chef Stephen Withall. I'm in the Culinary Lab in the Advanced Technology Center here at Gulf Coast State College. I wanted to talk to you today about sharpening knives and maintaining a sharp edge on a knife. Having a sharp knife is actually much safer than having a dull knife. When you're cutting with intention, a sharp knife will go where you plan on it going. A dull knife, however, tends to have a mind of its own, as most of us unfortunately find out, and you get your nicks and cuts that way. The dull knife, with the constant use of a knife on a cutting board, it actually smashes the edge of the blade, and that's just from common everyday use. So depending on how much you use your knife, how often your knife, the time to sharpen this, there's no set time. It's whenever the knife becomes dull, and you can tell if a knife is dull. I do see a lot of people use the front of their finger and drag it across the blade. We tend to stay away from that. I think that if it's a very sharp knife, that's one way to find out, is by putting your finger on the blade. So with safety being first, another way to do it is to use a piece of paper, and if the blade slices through the paper, then it's got an edge on it. It's okay. Sometimes you can also just tell by the way that you're cutting things. If things are getting harder to cut or you're sawing through, it's time to sharpen your knife. What we use here, these are our training knives here at the college for our students. And what we teach our students on is an oil stone. This is a commercial oil stone. Professional chefs in the industry will use an oil stone. This is actually a three-sided stone. On these slabs on here, this stone has a coarse, medium, and fine the texture on it for sharpening your blade. So if your blade's not extremely dull, you could start on medium and go to fine. We do teach our students to be very careful with this, and you build a technique over time of what works best for you. A lot of people ask what angle or what degree do I hold my knife at when I'm going to sharpen it on a stone like this. That's going to vary. Depends on what kind of knife you have, the type of edge on that knife, and what it's being used for. There's lots of different knife edges and quite a few different angles out there nowadays that you can find. So there really is no set angle for me to tell you on when you're going to be sharpening your blade. These knives, these are a double-edged blade. So they look like a V, and when we train our students on here on this oil stone, we have them draw, I try to have them draw away from themselves, like so. So they'll just repetition, keeping themselves safe, and just trying to keep that, learning how to use one of these and keeping the knife on a constant angle. Consistency when you're working with something like this is important. Because you do not want to change your edge. And then you could come back and this is actually manipulating the steel that has been damaged from use back into an edge, its original form. I would also like to talk to you about the more common sharpeners we see. And I have a couple examples here. So these are called draw sharpeners. You can find these all over, and these actually help. These are useful, and they're pretty safe. They have these handles on them. Some are very hardened steel or ceramic. You can find a couple different types, and you would turn your knife upside down, and it's called a draw sharpener because you're drawing this across the blade, and it reforms the edge. This is another option that we had, sort of similar to the oil stone. It's got a coarse and a fine. This is, the coarse is hardened steel, and then the fine is ceramic. So if you could use one of these are very safe too, because your hand is clearly away from the blade. You would draw this again, draw through. So I'm drawing my blade through, and then I would hone it on this fine side, the ceramic side. This is a steel. This does not sharpen your knife. I do see some people that are steel, they use this steel over and over and over, and chef, why is my knife dull? It's because this does not sharpen your knife. This hones the knife. So it realigns in between sharpenings, whether it's with a oil stone or one of the draw sharpeners we looked at here today. This just realigns the edge of the knife so you have an even edge. It takes some of the burrs, the little metal shavings. After you sharpen a knife, there's little metal shavings all over your blade. And this will actually take that off, take the metal burrs off as well. And this is good for maintenance in between sharpenings. So I always recommended the students, when you use an oil stone or any of these tools we saw here today, to make sure you sanitize your blade, because constant use of this, you can wash these, but some, there's the components of them you do not want exposed to water, but you always want to wash them because bacteria can hide in some certain places. After they wash their blade, drying this off will also help, and it'll take some of the burrs and oil or shavings off. So we hope that keeping your blades or keeping your knives at home safe and sharp is certainly a priority. Thanks for watching.